Hey everybody, Igor from the Better Life Academy here, and another Q&A session today. And I get this question from you guys pretty often, and I have already answered it partially in my social media profiles by recording those videos where I express my thoughts on what are the most efficient way of how to learn. And this is basically one of the questions which you've been sending towards me, during a couple last weeks. And you just asked me, what are the most efficient ways to learn? Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on even talking about it. So I really hope majority of you guys use that time, because this is the beginning of the year, right? And it's never late to set up your goals. And I hope that some of your goals are related to learning new skills, like one of the intangible skills, one of the tangible skills. Learn something new and grow and feel that fulfillment and happiness, because we only feel it when we grow, and we only grow when we learn something new, when we start to implement it into our life, when we start to see the results of that implementation, and then we're eager to learn even more. So what are the ways of how do you learn on a deeper level, anything which you learning about, right? Well, I have these two things to say about it. There are obviously a lot of different techniques and methods of how do you learn, but I think I can provide you with two most important ones, at least in my own opinion, and at least for those things which are working for me. Well, first of all, as you know, this kind of learning process for us nowadays is a little bit different than it was before. Nowadays, we learn when we run, because we have our AirPods and we listen to the podcast or something else, right? We learn when we do other different kind of exercises. We learn when we are in transport, like we commute from one place to another. We learn in many different places, and majority of the time we're actually trying to learn not only at work. Obviously we can learn a lot of things at work, but we spend majority of our time at work concentrating and focusing on something which is related to work, right? Which obviously we can learn about a lot about as well. But if we want to learn something extra, we usually do it like on the go, right? And when you do it on the go, you only understand that when you listen to your AirPods, or maybe you're watching the video. You are learning it on the level of understanding, and it's not enough to actually then proceed and implement it into your life, because as soon as you just only hear this and listen to that podcast while you're running, as soon as you stop running and then you do your stretching and stuff and cool down process, and then you come home, it's very easy to forget everything which you have just heard. It's not enough just listen to it. It is not enough just to hear it and then think that that thing somehow will change. It will shift a little bit your mind, but then your mind will get itself back if you're not going to continue do something about it, what you just heard. And to do something about it, I have two ways of how to work with that material, which you have already heard. The first way is to come back home, and at some point, preferably today, at the same day when you learn or heard something, sit down and write the thing down. Write in the way you have understood it. Write and put on the paper everything what you have in your mind related to that topic. All the thoughts what you had while you were listening to it. The facts that that particular person who was talking to you through the podcast or the course or whatever, or the video what you were looking at or listening to, wanted to get to you. Get this information out of your head. Structure this information, whether in your notepad or 3-ring binder, whatever you have, just put it there. By going through that process, you actually get this information on a very deeper level into your mind. Just imagine this hard drive, right? A hard drive can write something up on the first top layer of its disks. And then at some point, if you're going to want to write something on top of it, it's going to rewrite the whole information. It's going to erase the previous one or write on top of the previous. And that's what you get when you only listen to stuff. But if you then come back home and you actually write it down, because when you write, you invite. Remember one of those quotes I got for you? when you write down that stuff is actually going deeper into the layers, and the disc and that next process which try to write down something on top of it will never gonna get to it, and they're gonna sit very deep in your mind and gonna become your tool, your real knowledge, which you will be able to implement afterwards. And your mind at some point, when you feel like you're gonna need that tool, will get it out of there from the depth and get it on top, and you're gonna be able to use it. So this is one of my ways. I write things down. In imperfect case scenario, you have something maybe on your phone or your computer, preferably on your phone, because your phone probably is with you everywhere when you commute, when you run, when you do anything outside the house and everything, right? You probably have it all the time. Have that tool, whether it's Notepad, whether it's Evernote, whether it's some kind of task management system on the phone. And as soon as you have the thought, as soon as you've heard something, just stop, click on a pause, and maybe write it down in your notes right away so you can capture it. And then you come home and you work with those captures, and then you, based on those captures, you remember even more of the things which you have heard, and then you kind of put a lot of those things around those captures, and again you create the beautiful content which you just written and put it even deeper into your head. Okay, so this is one of the methods what I use. The second one what I use is I teach that material to others, and this teaching process is not like I want to push that on someone. I'm just going and sharing this information, and this is one of the ways, by the way, I'm doing right now. By that fact, what I'm doing this right now with you, and I'm sharing this information with you, it's actually getting even deeper in my mind, and I might understand the topic itself on an even deeper level. And it happened with me a lot. Like I would think what I understand topic on a very deep level, and I would decide to share it with you. So I just start record such video, and I'm recording it, and I'm talking to you about it, and I express all my feelings and knowledge and experience about that topic. As soon as I'm done, I have additional thoughts in my head which I would never had before, and it happened just because I just shared this information and I structure it in a different way, because I structured that information specifically for you, so it would impact you. And this is kind of the teaching and learning style kind of thing. And that style and that information distribution way lets your mind think a little bit differently and create the different thoughts, the thinking process around it. And that thinking process even gets deeper into your mind, and write this information down, and it becomes not only in your head but in your heart, in your soul, in you, and it becomes like the same all you, right? And that helps me a lot. So those are the two practical ways of how do I learn, and so far it was working great, and it is working great, and I'm sure it will be working great. Yes, it requires a little bit additional time. Yes, it requires a little bit of your investment, because it's a lot easier just to listen to the thing and then forget about it, come home and do other stuff. It's a lot harder to come back actually and have this discipline to sit down and write the thing down, and that's where majority of us fail. And as long as I was doing that in my life, I have done a lot of those things like that. I really went through the beautiful courses, beautiful programs, but I only remembered a little part of it, and I only implemented a little part of it. And as soon as I started to actually write it down, and as soon as I started to teach someone or share someone that information, which requires me talking about that and then hearing myself, not only looking at the video or listening to the video, now I'm hearing myself saying those things. It gets so deep, I never forget those things. Plus I have a lot of my notes which I have back to and read them again, and I can then learn and it's explosive learning process. I cannot even describe it correctly with words, but it becomes emotional, it becomes attached to you, it becomes you. And that's how you grow, that's how you become smarter, that's how you become street smart, that's how you actually get a lot more things done and a lot more joy out of life and fulfillment, because you actually feel the growing, you feeling your body and mind expanding. It doesn't want to do that, but you pushing it through and you expanded your identity, and this is a beautiful process, at least how I look at it and how do I describe it. So here you have it, two practical methods of how do you learn on the deeper level, and how you'll be able to implement that thing which you've learned a lot more efficiently. All right? Okay, it's enough out of me today. Thank you for listening. Igor from the Better Life Academy.